You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. So now I have a formal introduction, Chase. We're stepping up. You have never been on this podcast before.
I have not.
So I'm going to introduce you to everybody. This is Chase Merritt. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Chase. What do you do for a living?
Well, right now I am a cook at Taylor's restaurant in Ocean Pines, and part-time student at Warwick.
What are you studying for?
Warwick?
Yeah.
Just gen eds, just to get them out of the way. Cheap. I know I've been pretty lazy about school, but it's nice to keep going every once in a while.
How many classes are you taking?
Two.
You just do 2 every semester?
You
take breaks at all?
Yeah, I take breaks.
Do you know what you are pursuing in the long run? Or are you just doing general education at the moment?
Just general education at the moment. I don't know. My whole deal is college is expensive.
Yeah.
You know, and it's right. The price has gone up exponentially, and I don't know. I'm just not about. I feel like knowledge should be more affordable. Basically.
For sure. We had such a resource of it in school, and the next thing you know, we actually have to start paying for it. Is when you want to learn.
Yeah. Isn't
that the pain in the ass?
Yeah. I look stuff up online instead. So, I mean, just stuff that interests me. You know.
What interests you?
I've been getting back into weather recently. I used to be big into weather when I was a kid. I would check the hurricane forecast every single day, and then I fell out of it, and now I've been getting back into it. More just all general snow, rain, wind. It's all interesting.
Yeah, those are, I think, the only forces we really can't control.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason we come up with that concept of like a religion or a superhero or something.
I believe
something that has power over us. Bigfoot.
Uh-huh.
For example, this mythical beast out there. But
yeah.
The whole idea that we can, we can discover a lot about water. We can discover a lot about fire. We like to think that we can learn how to kind of hold it and captivate it and like use it towards whatever we need it to or control it. You can't control water. There's constantly natural disasters is one of the main things that we're never just going to be able to control. It's the earth, it's doing its thing. It's keeping us alive at the same time. But have you heard that people like could divert tornadoes and stuff like that?
Really?
It's like the government trying to work on like weaponry and like it's apparently like a conspiracy, but like apparently there was like during the time of 9/11 there's like this conspiracy that there was like a hurricane coming straight at it or something. It was coming for some place in New York, and then next thing you know it just diverts 100%. I'm like, is that just like a change of wind? I'm like, because you probably became fascinated with the weathers because of where we live at. I mean, the weather's constantly changing. It's spring one minute, and the next thing you know, like it was like 70 today, and now it's already dropped down to like 40 something degrees.
Yep.
And it's like the winds are ripping. I know we have like a tropical storm in the distance, but it's like, is that what you want to do like for a career wise? Like, would you ever think about being a weatherman? It's the one job you never have to be right.
That's true. I've thought about it, but on the other hand, there's a lot of complicated knowledge that you have to have. Like, it's subjects that I'm not good at, like physics, calculus, like atmospheric sciences, like, because they have to...
You just have to know it to get the certificate or the job
true,
title,
but
then once you get it...
I'm so bad at those courses. It's so much that because it's all, like, you have to measure the air pressure and the wind patterns, and it's all these complicated things going into one. I would love to, don't get me wrong. I just don't know if it's something that I want to commit a lot of time to. It's more, for me, it's more of like a hobby, because there's
it's more like you would do it for your own self-interest.
Yeah. There's online resources, there's government websites. Of course, they're government websites, so they're like straight out of the 90s in website design, but...
So do you get fascinated by storms?
Absolutely.
Now,
absolutely.
All right, give me your perfect storm.
Perfect storm... Well, there was, which one was it? It was, I feel stupid already because I've forgotten the name of what was the hurricane that hit Irma? Might have been Irma that hit Florida that, there's this thing when
tropical... It was Terrence.
Well, this was 2018, 2017. No, 2018.
The one that just happened, right?
Not. It was last hurricane season, and they were predicting that it was going to go up the coast. Then they predicted that it was going to go into Georgia. Then they predicted it was going to go to Florida, and then it barely it grazed the tip of Florida and then moved up. You remember that one?
So you're fascinated by that?
Well, because there's some context because this storm, when a tropical cyclone is very healthy, it gets this shape effect that they call the buzzsaw, and it looks like a buzzsaw, and that means that it's healthy, it's spinning, it is not having any.
So if you're looking at a radar, it looks straight up like a buzzsaw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not only that, but it looked like that on radar for a straight 36 hours. It normally it's.
Were you watching it live on your phone the whole time?
Not the whole time.
You're in hour 7 and this saw keeps moving.
Not constantly, but there was. I was checking up every few hours whenever they would release a new update about it.
Just at work.
Yeah.
Everyone else was on YouTube watching Cardi B, and you're sitting there watching the buzzsaw tour.
There's actually YouTube forecasters too. Did you know that?
I believe it. I mean, there's a video of a guy that chases after, there's a whole TV show inspired about chasing after hurricanes, and then the dude, oh, Ricky, my pants blew off, but keep on filming, it's going to be on AFE. That whole thing. It's that's fascinating, though, man, that you think of it like that. See, the way I was trying to ask what your perfect storm was I know a perfect storm, when you see heat lightning, out in the distance, you're sitting on the beach, and then the air is warm. There's static in the air. You could feel your arm hair kind of stick up. That subtle detail, those types of moments, or something you get when after a nice rain is coming in, but not a hard one, or just after a hard rain.
Yeah.
That smell and that just feeling of a reset. That's what really I like about storms, and I love a nice thunderstorm. I like to hear the boom and the cracks. I remember one time. Have this crazy experience. It's a couple. I think it probably has happened twice or 3 times in my life. Once at my grandparents' house, there was a tree outside my window, just maybe just out that window is. It's a couple feet away.
Yep.
And this one tree just got struck by lightning, and I was sleeping with my head near the wall. I'm surprised I did not get electrocuted.
Wow.
I did not feel it. I don't know whatever that was. I don't know how it didn't hit me, or because I was so close to where it hit, but it was so loud.
Yeah.
It felt like someone just took a stick and snapped it right in my ear, and I was oh, and the whole ground shook. I was scared. Oh, I was little at the time, too.
That definitely would have scared the shit out of me.
And then it happened once when I was camping. I was playing Mortal Kombat down in the arcade at Shad's Landing.
Ah, I know, yes.
Shad's Landing. I was playing that little old school Mortal Kombat. They sell those at Walmart now, the old school retro giant arcade machine things.
No way.
They're a mini version. Some people say it sucks. I'm like, boop, $300, man. You get to sit there.
Personal.
They have Space Invaders, but they don't have Mortal Kombat. They have Space Invaders and some other crappy game. But I'm like... Who cares? That's the fun part of just tapping those buttons and hitting the joystick. All our parents went to the arcade to spend money on those things. But back to the story, I was playing Mortal Kombat on this thing, and I'm like, it's thunderstorming and it's raining out, and I rode my bike all the way from our campsite here because I'm a kid, so it's I gotta wait till it stops or something. And next thing I know, I'm hearing bang, bang, and it's just the loudest crackings everywhere. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm sitting under this, under the building is where the arcade is. It's the little under part where the pool tables are and everything. It's, oh my, it was the scariest thing. I was like, I am not leaving here. My dad's going to have to come pick me up. There's no freaking way because I don't know how long this storm's going to last. And the dude upstairs is like, you might want to come inside. I'm like, but I'm playing Mortal Kombat. He ended up coming downstairs with drinks Diet Cokes or sodas, whatever it was, and ice cream and stuff, and we just sat there. He pulled up 2 stools because I was standing the whole time, so he pulled up 2 stools and we just sat there playing Mortal Kombat. The dude's in his 30s. I'm like, yeah, but he doesn't have anything else to do. It's just him at this little convenience store. If anybody comes in, he just put the sign back in 20 minutes and walked downstairs, and he was like, I'll sit with you, man, and we'll just play Mortal Kombat. If you don't want to come upstairs, if you like playing games down here, I'm not going to force a kid upstairs.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But that was a fun experience. That's something I'm always going to remember. And I see that guy. I saw him like 2 years ago in the store, and I was a lot older. I was like, you don't remember me? And he goes, Mortal Kombat. I was like, yes. But it's crazy how you can leave an imprint image or like some type of like memory on someone like that. You know what I mean? Like there's always something, like we all, I think, have probably someone in our life that has a type of experience or something that we've had with, whether it's the conversations like a friend and you have had at like 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, either drunk or sitting by a bonfire.
Yep.
Like you don't remember exactly what was said, but it was a moment that just like it stains your brain, it stains your soul, and it's just always there, and you feel more connected to that person than anything, you know?
Yeah. That's cool. That's really cool. It's funny that you mention there being a storm at Shad Landing, because I had a storm experience at Shad Landing at that arcade.
So I'm guessing it's like that's the eye of the storm.
Yeah.
Is that true? That the eye of the storm is like it's like the calm.
Yeah.
And then everything it's like it's gonna get 10 times worse when you're out of it. You have to go through all that shit again.
Yeah, basically. So when the eye of the storm comes over for a hurricane, it's I don't honestly remember what it. I can tell you that it's the center of the pressure system.
Yeah, but it's like less harmful than going through the outside. So like if you're traveling through it, you're going to get the full force of destruction, or if it's going into your path.
Yeah.
But if you're in the eye, it's like calmer, and it's like you're not as affected by anything. It feels like everything's stopped. But then once it starts passing back over you because it's moving again,
yep.
you're fucked.
Yeah.
And I really want to know the one like hurricane or something where it just touches down on top of someone's house and it doesn't like before it starts doing a spinning vortex or whatever, but the eye of it is just over their house and it's just screwing up their whole neighbors, and then like every neighbor's like coming out of like the rubble and stuff, and then their one house, like their neighbor's house is just perfectly fine, and these guys come out, wow, we were in the eye the whole time, the thing didn't even move. All your neighbors would be like up in arms ready to beat the shit out of your house and just get you out.
I mean, we have the opposite of that. There's tornadoes.
You just say it's God's will.
I mean,
he wanted my house, he liked my days better than yours.
You know, these better garden.
What's the opposite with a tornado?
You know, the hurricane, large spinning area with a calm center, and then tornado. The tornado is the middle spinning center, and it fucks everything up, and then everything else around it is fine. Because you were talking about...
what's the difference between a tornado and a cyclone?
Tornado is...
Or a hurricane.
A hurricane is a very large-scale pressure system, and it has to come from the tropics. And now they got all this, like, extratropical, non-tropical... It's... Extratropical, I think, means that it just forms not in the tropics, which is, like, a strip from northern Africa, grazing above South America, and then the Virgin Islands and all that area, and then extratropical is when it gets up above us, like coast New York, all that area.
The area it's affecting is just what gives it the status. Basically.
Yeah. Like, for example, in the Pacific, North Pacific, they're called typhoons, and then South Pacific, they're called cyclones. There's all these different names for them. It just depends on where you are. It's like the same thing with tornadoes. The rating system, we use the enhanced Fujita scale, and then in, I guess, mainly Europe, because I don't know anywhere else, so I'm not going to say that with authority, but in Europe it's called like the T scale, and it's from 0 to 10. But yeah, it's, I don't know, there's just...
fascinating. I seriously don't know this stuff, so it's like... I do a spin-off to this podcast called Fill in the Blank, where we talk like about a specific topic. I will look up like most like craziest hurricanes or like specific stuff you're interested in. I'll print out nothing but facts. Like I have legit like a full binder of freaking facts here.
Nice.
I got like
you're set up
articles here, like milligram experiment. Like I got stuff that just people are interested in. I start getting into, and
that's awesome.
You can't forget the conspiracies books, you know. Picked it up at a thrift store. I was like, this is exactly what my life is about now, is conspiracy theories. But that's crazy. So are you just go to your Shad's Landing story. I'm sorry, I took you away from
no, that's all good. It's all good. It's just funny that you had one as well, because we were at the arcade and a little bit before the storm, and we were in the arcade and we heard like the low rumbles, and we were like, is that thunder? And we were like, no, can't be. Then there was one that was really loud, and we were like, All
There's
right.
either a giant car accident or it's a storm.
Yeah, we were like, we need to get back to the campsite now. And then on the way out of there was terrifying because it was night. We're surrounded by trees, constant flashing of lightning. There's lightning striking all around us. So there, for that 10 minutes, it was pretty intense. But
That's the one time you want to make sure that you left not at 2 o'clock in the morning when whoever was back at the campground was not asleep.
Yeah.
Because you were screwed. You had to ride your ass home and that shit.
Yeah, totally. If you ever do the fill in the blank on weather, if you have people on for that, I'll definitely.
I'll have
do
you
that.
on.
I'll
for
definitely
it,
do
dude.
that
I'll
with you.
print
I
out
could,
so much facts.
I could talk about weather for hours. It's so fascinating.
Well, you got your chance right now. What I want to talk about is, so are you obsessed with just hurricanes and those types of like the gale force winds? Explain that.
Gale winds. Now
That's just a heavy wind, right?
if I'm correct, then yes.
It's obviously
basically,
not a
yeah.
breeze.
Yeah, a gale. I think it also might have something to do with it being coastal, like on coastal waters, because when I look at the weather.gov website, and it basically just has this giant map of the United States with all the county outlines, and it has color-coded warnings. So there's like high wind watch here or a flood warning here, and it color codes it. Whenever I see gale warnings, it's always along the coast, and everywhere else it's high wind watch or high wind warning or high wind advisory, or there's even one called brisk wind. So there's like, I don't know what there's like,
I know a brisk wind. It's like that cold winter morning sometimes.
I guess, yeah.
Brisk.
They actually also have avalanche warnings on there. The first time I saw that, I was like, we predict those? I was like, okay, that's interesting.
You got some dude walking up in like yodeling shorts and all that stuff, trying to, I'm going to yodel now. Put it at a category 4 for the avalanche watch. It's like, what? Now, what sets up the category systems? I know that's how strong they are, but like, what are the different numbers? Like, it just goes up to 5? Because like an earthquake can be like an 8 or a 10. Like if you get is 8 the highest or is it 10?
I think it's 10's the highest for earthquakes.
Because I know we have one that's supposed to come and hit us, and like once they call it the
really?
big one or something, and it's like
okay.
once the big one happens, the Earth will get messed up. But like the first people that were here, like it was like the first generation of whatever we were known before Homo sapiens. Mm-hmm. Those people that were alive, they were there when basically the meteor hit Earth, and it was an astral impact. You can look this up, and Earth literally rang for 1,000,000-something years. Like
wow.
It was like bad.
That's crazy. I've looked at
I have
stuff
to
like
dive
that.
more research into that, but I know for a fact that like there was like we got hit pretty hard and like it cracked.
That's crazy.
Like if you talk to people who are interested in the flat Earth theory or something like that, it's a little bit ridiculous to think that you just think the world's gonna drop off.
Yeah.
Because that's the knowledge we had back in the day. Like that's knowledge like we were like, if you keep going this far, you ever seen the movie Year One with Jack Black?
Yeah.
Where they're talking about you just fall off the Earth. That's what happens. There's no other edge because what's beyond that? Because you just die.
Yeah.
Like, there is no like. And that's only because they don't believe how, like, when they see the pictures of the space or Earth from space, it's one-sided. You don't get to see the other side, so they think it's just flat, like a disc. I'm like, that makes sense to why someone would think that. But we have a famous neurosurgeon, like one of the most famous, the one that just ran for Ben Carson.
Oh, really?
The one that ran for president, or did the election and then just dropped out. Yeah, he's a famous neurosurgeon, and he literally believes in flat Earth theory.
Really?
Yeah, he believes the Earth's flat. How do you think a respected doctor like that?
That's weird.
Yeah, and I mean the whole idea. We like the government paid us like to fake the moon landing. We did it as a thing because we, like basically like we were falling behind in the space race. And what happened is we paid a bunch of actors and like this film company to produce images of like this fake scenario, and then we sent it to Russia. It was supposed to be like a propaganda thing. We were eventually going to get there. It's not like we've never been to the moon. We've been to the moon, but it was like we didn't get there as soon as before them, basically. It's like, we already won, and then Russia's like, well, I guess we're going to have to send something else or do something else in space, because they were the first person to send something into space, and then next thing you know, we're the first people on the moon. It's like, we're trying to one up, and we were losing the competition, we felt like, in our eyes, so we were like, we need to do this. Isn't that nuts?
It is. That's crazy.
Did you not know that?
I mean,
you've heard conspiracies about the faking of...
I've heard conspiracies about it, but I don't buy into the conspiracies. But I haven't done a bunch of research on it. I just figure...
Hey,
the thing
man,
I think is, like, why would we go through all that effort to fake it? I mean, I get, like...
It wasn't a big effort compared to what we were trying to do just to get up there first.
That's true, but I don't...
I mean,
it's just weird to me, like that.
I found out some cover-up stuff that just got released, like, from the... we have the Federal Information Act, like Freedom of Information Act.
Uh-huh.
Well, we really don't get the information until 20 years after the person's dead.
Yeah.
You know the movie Men Who Stare at Goats?
I've heard of it, but I haven't ever watched it.
You know that's real?
Really?
The government training psychological warriors?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
That happened in Fort Meade, Maryland.
I've heard of that.
I did a fill in the blank on it. You should check it out. And then, like, I'm not trying to bring you over to my other podcast, but no, it's the whole aspect. Like, the government does some shady shit. We launched nukes in our atmosphere.
Yeah.
It was called Operation Fishbowl.
Uh-huh.
We did a thing called, what was it called? It was Operation... Oh, no, it was called the Montreal Experiments. You know what the Montreal Experiments are? We tried to treat people with schizophrenia, but what we would do is we would just experiment on them using LSD and type of paralyzing drugs, and also a thing called psychic driving. And psychic driving is like playing and blasting subliminal messages into your mind. And, like, there's been family members that have sued and have been paid off like $2 million because their family had to relearn, the people that were involved in these experiments had to relearn how to potty train, walk, and, like, are basically babies all over again at the age of like 40. And that's because when they imprint these images, or what they imprint this, like, type of mind control thing into your mind, a certain word or something can erase a certain part of your memory, they would make the person forget the experiments that they were in.
It's like some sleeper cell shit.
But they did that with secret agents too. They had a program called Delta, and it was called Sleeper Spy. And what they would happen is you were a sleeping assassin. You literally would go on, like, autopilot, and you would go and do these tasks, like stuff you wouldn't be able to do, like someone hypnotizing you. And that was all part of the program. And they had a self-destruct code they would play where it would snap you back into it, but you wouldn't know you did it. And sometimes the erasing thing went a little too far, and they erased too much where the person doesn't remember who they are or anything like that. Because they would always try and use it after the experiment so no one would remember. But then it's like how your brain has synapses.
Yeah. So
when the synapses connect, you can also have a surgery where your synapses can get burned or snapped. And, or, like, if you get hit with a certain amount of head trauma, you get turned into 10-second Tom off 50 First Dates. Yeah. Hi, I'm Tom. Introduces himself, and then 10 seconds later, hi, I'm Tom. Yeah, we just met 10 seconds ago. I was like, what? I don't remember that. It's the whole fascination that I have with the human brain. Like, it's crazy to think how something that interests you, like weather, I wouldn't think twice about. But then since you're so interested in it and you're so passionate about it, I can get into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I definitely get that. I feel like people should talk about their passions more often, because then it's like a gateway into enjoying things that other people enjoy.
Plus, I find, like, my interest is people's interest. You know what I mean? I like finding out a lot of, like, secret stuff. Like, it feels like, I like unlocking mysteries. And
it's good for a podcast.
You know what Brian said about my podcast is, like, it's like a fortune cookie. We're always cracking down to the mystery inside. And I'm like, that's my whole thing. I get obsessed with, like, figuring out mysteries or secrets. So, like, when it comes to government conspiracies, I just literally go to Warwick. You know how you get a page limit on your...
Yeah,
150.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I go into one of the resource rooms where the teachers have to renovate. Just turn on the printer. I literally printed out, like, probably 4 giant stacks of, like, 250 pages of documents. I had to refill the printer 4 times.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but I'm just sitting in there by myself listening to, like, Joe Rogan or something and just printing. And I got, like, stuff on George Washington Carver. Like, I got all these, like, random articles. Just things that my friends, like, I like this. And then... Robert Liston, I talk about him too much, but he was known as the fastest knife in the West End. And he has a 300% kill rate in one of his surgeries during the Victorian era.
Yeah.
You heard about that guy? He invented Listerine.
Really?
Isn't that nuts?
That's crazy. I mean, Maybe those three
History's
people,
fascinating, man.
Maybe those three people were sacrifices to the Listerine gods.
The Listerine gods? That's a thing, dude. I did a fill in the blank on Pastafarianism. You can't tell me it's not real. I believe that more than I believe in Christianity.
I mean, hey.
They're one of their commandments. It's called the Thou Shall Don'ts.
Uh-huh.
And, or the Thou Shall Do Nots. Or something like that, something stupid.
Yeah.
But, like, one of them's like, don't spend any money on building me a temple or anything in my name. Just treat yourself to pasta dinners and have fun and enjoy life. But if you want to buy me something, buy me something.
That's pretty funny.
It's like the whole idea, like, it's the one, like, God that doesn't want you to invest any type of time into worshiping him. Just have fun with eating spaghetti and let him work around with his noodly appendages. So, tell me about... We're talking about categories of hurricanes. Uh-huh. So, do you know all the categories?
Yeah. I don't know if it's specific... Because, to be honest, I've been just getting back into it pretty recently.
Well, I'm hoping to spark your interest a little bit bigger there.
Yeah, so when I say these things, I don't want to sound like I'm saying it with a complete authority, because in some cases I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
But one of the things that determines the categories for hurricanes is the wind speeds. So... Category 1, it's like 74 to like 92. Category 2, 92 to 110. And then you get into major hurricanes, which is 3 and above. And it actually, which is interesting, the wind speeds between hurricanes isn't that much difference. So, Category 1, 74, 92, it's like 20 miles an hour there. And then it's the next 20 miles an hour. And then the next 20, and then the next 20, and that's all there is between categories as far as wind speeds. But there's also the storm surge, which is the big threat. I never knew that when I was a kid that the storm surge is what's really dangerous about a hurricane. As the wind speed, sure, it'll blow stuff over and it'll do structural damage, but it's mostly straight line winds. But the storm surge, when you start getting up into those major the category 3s, major hurricanes, you start getting like 8, 10, 12 feet of storm surge. I didn't know this. 12 feet of storm surge, and it's going to sound stupid, but I was a kid, but that doesn't mean like 12 feet farther than like normal up. It's like 12 feet of water in that area that's not supposed to be there. Like, there was this video on Weather Channel, and Weather Channel's a little sensationalist, but I saw that video, and I was like, holy crap. So that's why you see those videos of the coastal homes, the homes up on stilts, where it's, like, up to the bottom of it. Like, the storm surge, like, when it pushes up on shore, that's what gets people killed.
We experienced that in Ocean City with the ocean and the bay being on either side of us. We see the ocean on one side, the bay on the other. The water rises and it starts flooding the streets. Ocean City floods a lot when we just get a little bit of rain. Having a giant storm, like, what's the things that always accompany a storm? It's rain, wind, those types of things. Like, when you have a hurricane, what's one thing that usually follows is, like, besides wind, obviously, but, like, rain, that whole, it's just really, really crappy. Like, it doesn't feel good being out in it. But, like, the whole aspect of, what are all the things that can go wrong during a hurricane that can get you killed?
Yeah.
Like, if you're really going to think about it, like, or it's much, much safer to stay in your home, it's also much safer to be outside, too. Mm-hmm. Like, you do want protection from the winds, but there's stuff inside your house that can kill you. Yeah. Especially, they're going towards objects. Like, you obviously, the one thing you want to do is get under somewhere. You want to be under the ground when something's above the ground causing damage. That just makes logical sense, because there's no way it can hurt you. But what happens if a hurricane's covered by an earthquake? Then you're underground and you're fucked because you're sitting under there and everything's shaking. All your peas and canned beef jerky is falling off the shelf, and you're in your safe house bunker. Like, I was planning for the apocalypse, not the earthquakes and the hurricanes of the world.
I've thought about that before. Like, what if there was 2 separate natural disasters that happen in one location? Like you were talking about, earthquake and hurricane.
What
are
you
going to
chalk that up to? just a freak of nature.
Yeah,
you wouldn't be like most people and be like it's an act of God.
No, I don't think so. Because when I was talking about those YouTube forecasters, that's the first time that I actually saw those conspiracies in the comments that you were talking about.
What, act of God?
No, the people who are like, oh, the government has these machines. They have advanced technology.
That's a real thing, then. Okay.
Well,
they have a machine that can divert hurricanes.
I don't think it's a real thing. I think it's just people on YouTube being silly.
You know what the Nazis tried working on?
What's that?
The sun gun.
I haven't heard of that.
I just learned about this today. The Nazis is where I printed out an article. The sun gun. They thought they could shoot something into space that was like a mirror, and it would be able to burn and devastate civilizations and make them bend at their will.
Okay.
By harvesting the power of the sun.
So what's that? That's like some the
solar energy shit.
What's that gun out of Gears of War? Do you play Gears of War? Do you ever play Gears of War?
Hammer of Dawn.
Hammer of Dawn. That's it's like that.
That's not the sun though. That's a giant laser we sent up into space.
That's true.
Next thing you know, it just like it has to. Yeah, but you can notice like if you just move out of the way, I mean, you could be faster than that.
Yeah.
But imagine that they're just some like two astronauts up there in a giant spaceship that are freaking moving this microscope to just start burning. Like next thing you know, like Hades gone, and it's like Hades already been through enough.
Yeah.
Like, the hell.
It's hard. It has already been
under
through
Nazi
enough.
regime.
Yeah.
The whole, like, it's ridiculous because, you know, the Nazis also created a type of gun where it has an attachment that goes in the front of it for their MP40s. Mm-hmm. And what they would do is it's a curved barrel, so it would be able to shoot in multiple different angles. They were the ones that actually invented that first. And but it was a prototype. It wasn't perfected. And then eventually we had the corner shot rifle and those types of attachments for our rifles where we could shoot around corners and be able to do stuff like that. Like you see in Wanted, the movie.
Yeah.
You know, the assassins are shooting around corners without looking and stuff. And then you know, it's just crazy to see what some people were already on the cusp of discovering. When you look at Leonardo da Vinci and all his inventions and all his scribblings, he's the one that made the movable, like the one tank that can fire from all sides, has cannons from all sides. Yeah. You know, he invented the flying machine. Now, was he just ahead of the cut? Even though he just only had, we didn't see any prototypes of these things, but he just had lots of sketches. He was known as the unfinished artist.
Yeah.
He believed his one motto is art is never done, just left unfinished. Like he believed the Mona Lisa could still be added with and stuff of that sort. So it's like, it's ridiculous to think. Like if I had superpowers, I would travel back in time to go and visit these like amazing people, like what's Archimedes, you know, those types of people, like the stuff that seems like it's folk or legend. It can't all just be folk or legend. Like who's the one famous guy that in the Greek, not philosopher, not Plato, but oh god, I'm gonna kill myself trying to remember his name. He invented like literature and all those types of things.
It's not Socrates, is it? You said he's not a philosopher?
No, it's not Socrates. It's, God, it starts with an A. It starts with an A or an M. He was the one that did a bunch of playwrights. He's in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. That might help us out here.
I haven't ever played Assassin's Creed, honestly. I don't have it.
That's like the best part. That's like my time. I like Greek mythology. I'm really interested in that. Like if I had to choose one interest, it'd be obsessed with just like the idea of this. First of all, the statues. You know those white statues had a paint on them, and then like it just faded over time. Like we used a black light to figure that out. And then like the Rome and Greek, all our influence with medical stuff comes down from that. Like that's all that was brought over here. All our literature, everything that is like mathematics, all the forward like stuff we learned in school, that was all brought over from Greek. That's all like Greek influence. That's all Roman influence. It's all, you know, it's crazy to think that, you know, Greek and Rome are two different cultures. And they had different ways, like Rome's invented toilets, and then like, you know, that's ridiculous to think. And then Greeks are sitting here writing plays, but still shitting their pants. They're not, you know, they don't have a proper system to dump their crap out. That's ridiculous to think. Now I'm gonna freaking God, I want to know this person's name too. We can skip it because it's gonna come to us like 45 minutes in, like later.
Just sitting here pondering,
God, shit, that was his name. But like the whole idea, like, so you're not just fascinated with hurricanes?
No, that's all weather.
Is that your most one that you're really interested in? Like, if you had to choose one thing that's a product of weather
recently, and what it's honestly been getting me back into weather in general, tornadoes. Tornadoes are crazy, dude.
Do you watch a lot of tornado videos?
Oh, absolutely. I've been watching so many recently. I go through phases of stuff I watch on YouTube, and some of them stick, some of them don't. But the weather thing has stuck recently, and tornadoes. There's just so many different shapes and intensities that they can achieve, and it's a beautifully destructive force of nature, and that, I mean, all nature is, but it's particularly beautifying. I don't know.
It's remaking the earth. Like,
Yeah.
It's literally leveling and destroying basically what we have put that can be considered poison on the earth's skin. Like it's a way of earth cleansing itself.
And it's one of the most alive types of weather, I would say. Yeah, I mean,
the way it moves, it's like water. You look at
Yeah.
water and you can give it like characteristics. You can consult it to be a person. That's the whole idea of like spiritual, where people talk about earth, wind, and fire, like fire being anger and like, either chalking it up to emotions, relating it to us, or chalking it up to some deity or god or something. Like that's the whole thing about Greek like mythology and any type of folklore. There was a god for everything. There was a god for couch pillows. There was a god for grains. There was a god for water. There was a god for everything.
That's a type of religion I could get behind, honestly.
It's not
fun.
even, but there's not even just gods. You got to think. In Greek mythology, they dealt with gods. Then there's titans, who are the parents of the gods. Like, did you know who the titan is of the ocean? It's so simple.
I would have been able to tell you in like middle school or high school.
Oceanus.
Really?
Oceanus.
Okay.
It's the simple basic where we just get ocean from. Is Oceanus. That came from Greek literature, and like everything is just it's that. There's these basic titans that have these basically a couple of the gods' powers in one. And then they're overruled by their children, and it's like the whole generation where we're becoming, more powerful than our children. It's like the aging process. Like that was the whole thing of Greek mythology back then. And it's not just that. Scottish, Chinese culture. They found ancient dinosaur bones in China, and they believed they were dragon bones, and it was popularized through myth that they were dragons. They used to have dragons that live among us, so then that became part of their culture. You're the dragon, you're the pig. They became like a resonance with their animals. It's just how they're culturally developed. And it's crazy to think how, like, just because, like, when someone's like, oh, I don't want to go there because I don't like the culture, I don't like the food to eat, but it's culture. Like, it's something we all have to experience. It's one of the benefits of going to public school. You get to get a whole wide variety of, integrating yourself with diversity. The whole aspect of diversity is nobody's going to think like you do. Nobody's going to act and have the same emotions, whether you live with the person or not, whether they're related to you or not. You develop your own person in a way. And it's crazy to think, like, how someone who's, like, bilingual, who has, like, a parent that's white and then a parent that's Spanish, learns how to speak Spanish but might look white.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell when someone's talking shit on you. Like, in Spanish, and you can understand and speak the language.
That's a huge perk.
And that opens up things. Also, people who know sign language or some other type of language, like, you have a benefit. And then it's really how you take everything in perspective. Like, if you're blind and you're like, I can't see, so there's no point in living if I can't see. It's like, but what else has been intensified since you can't see? Well, I became really good at tasting foods. Go be a food critic. Go do something like that. Like, use something with your talents now. You have this, the one ability that left you. Don't let it be the crippling downside. Let it be the uplifting upside to it, where it feels like instead of having a foot that just doesn't work anymore, or having a leg that doesn't work anymore, your legs don't work, okay? What are you better at now? How are you going to manage to move past that? Like, you don't got legs, man, or they don't work, which I feel bad for because I just realized at the age of 20-something that, like, I understand why handicapped toilets always make your legs go to sleep. Because they're so fucking high up. You think the person's legs are already messed up enough you wouldn't want to try and cause any more damage? Like, well, they're handicapped. They can't feel it, so we'll just raise the toilet up. Because it helps them push out whatever they need to do to go to the bathroom. If you raise your legs in elevation, it helps things move along a lot quicker in the digestive tract. Well, I was sitting on the toilet, I'm like, damn, my fucking legs are asleep. Slam my head up against the thing trying to stand up. I stand up, my legs are asleep, and I bang my head on the thing, like, damn. But it's like, it cuts off where the blood is right here, and it raises your legs just enough.
That makes sense.
So I'm like, why is it so uncomfortable? You wouldn't think that they would want to hurt a person's legs who doesn't work anymore. But then it's like, oh, they don't even think about the person's legs.
Yeah.
They're in total disregard. They're just trying to make sure you're able to go to the bathroom. Well, then that makes sense. But it's the whole aspect. It feels like it's like I see it in a nice way, like a beautiful way, where it's like you have this thing, and I'm glad that society has these things that implement like ways to make you be able to function with us, trying to bring a normalization to us. Like, you don't have the function of your legs. We're going to build a ramp so you can be able to get and experience the same experience as someone else. There's no we shouldn't be on any different levels from each other.
Absolutely.
But then people take that to advantage, not people that are actually handicapped, but like people that use the scooters in the store that just don't feel like walking. It's like that's fun to do at times when no one's doing it, but what happens if someone pulls up and you're not willing to give them the scooter when they actually need it, and they have to struggle through the store trying to get their day going by.
Yeah.
There's a video I saw as a dude with no arms, no like legs, nothing. He's just a torso, and he was doing so much with his life, and he's like, I lived the best life possible. And it's like, that is like amazing to think that you have to brush your teeth in the you can't reach the sink, so you have to go into the bathtub and brush your teeth at the faucet. Like the whole thing, you gotta flush the thing with your nose. You gotta do that stuff. Like, how do you pee without reaching your crotch? Like, you don't know. It's like, that's just difficult to even think. Like, we don't understand where we take so much stuff for granted. And I don't want to bring it down to like a bad level, but it's like, it's true.
It is.
It's like, if you have a passion, you still got like parts to pursue it. Go after it, man. Like, you want to be the like. Have you seen what is it? It's on Netflix. It's like a cowboy thing. It's really ridiculous. It's a bunch of short stories.
Like it's called like the Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Yes,
or something like
you
that.
ever seen that?
I saw the first like 40 minutes of it at my cousin's house.
Did you see
Christmas.
the part with Liam Neeson?
I don't think so.
There was a dude with no arms and legs.
No, I
didn't.
And
Liam Neeson was taking care of him the whole time. And they did a live theater because it's back in the West.
Yeah.
So he's doing a live theater performance. He has the dude sitting on a thing, and the dude can recount like a really good Shakespeare tale and tell a tale, and that's how they make money going around the thing.
Yeah.
Well, the dude, their business isn't getting like any tips or anything because that's how he makes his money. Liam Neeson carries this guy everywhere, and they go to town and like do this because they're all like 20, 30-minute sketches each.
Yeah.
And the guy is not making as much money, and they pull into town, and there's another booth set up, like one of those old, the old play booths.
Yeah.
Like the puppets you'd have, and it was a chicken that could guess numbers, and people were betting so much money. It was like the new popular trend, and he wasn't getting money from the dude doing the Shakespeare stuff anymore. So then he bought the stall, bought the chicken, and then he starts, pedaling down, finds a bridge, gets out of the car and goes, I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick. And the guy with no arms or legs sitting in the car, like, okay. Like, that's how he eats, is from that guy. So if he leaves him, he's done. And Liam Neeson grabs a rock, throws it off the bridge, sees how deep the water is. And the dude's strapped to a chair to help him with his back, keep him up. And he just throws him off the bridge. Next thing you know, he's just got the chicken with him. Like, you don't see him throw him off the bridge, but the dude's cart's going, and next thing you see is it's just the guy, Liam Neeson, and the chicken.
And that's how the story ends.
That's how the story ends.
Oh my god, what a terrible.
But you gotta think, like, how much is it really that much of a benefit that someone can use a handicap chair or use a handicap like scooter, and because they don't have the ability to move around as quickly as you do?
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous to think, like, without that guy, without Liam Neeson, that guy wouldn't have survived. He was not able to feed himself. He had no one to take care of him. He didn't come upon, like, some people don't have the luck of coming upon a service care or place that takes care of these people. Back in the Wild West and those types of days, you got sick, you basically died.
Yeah.
Sometimes during different cultures, you dug a hole and just kind of sat in it. During the Victorian era, a lot of those people just died. Like, if you got a broken leg, there's a report with Robert Lister. I don't know why I say Linden. Robert Lister, the fastest knife in the West End. 300% mortality rate. He killed 2 people, all in an amputation. One was chopping a woman's leg off, and then in the process, he was moving so fast, he chopped a woman's fingers off, or assistant's fingers off. And then he was moving so quick, he moved the knife and sliced the spectator's coat, and the guy was so old he had a heart attack and died. So he has a 300% mortality rate. Well, if you get a limb chopped off back then, it was over anything, basically. Like, the whole thing, like, your whole life was done. You were dying because they had no way to treat the infection if you got sick. You mostly got sick from it. Like, you get a bullet wound, they believe, like, just leave it in there if it's not doing anything, because like you can live with that. You don't want us trying to dig it out, ended up getting you more infected with the tools we have. Like, you went to the hospital if you were poor back then.
Yeah.
Because that's where you can get your care. But if you were rich, you had the doctor come to you.
Oh, yeah,
because
definitely.
that saves with contamination from all the other germs that are in a hospital. And like they say, the number one place you can get sick is a hospital. Like, but how? It's so clean. Yeah, but it's the number one place to get sick because you were the prime evidence for everything is. You know, you're not going to get sick from like Ebola or something if you never experience or meet anybody with Ebola and you've never been over there. You're not going to just get that here. It just doesn't travel like that.
Yeah.
It's native to that area. And when you think about, like, there was a story about a 12-year-old boy who had to get his leg chopped off. And I'm like, okay, and I'm reading it. And Robert Lister performed this surgery. And I was like, okay, well, why did he get his leg chopped off? It was broken.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so they had to chop it off. And they didn't have any anesthesia. That's why you wanted a fast surgeon.
That's the hard part.
So that's why you had to be fast. Because, you know, back then, that was their form of entertainment. The operating room was set up like a spectating room. Like, everybody would come and pay to watch, you know, someone get their leg chopped off or something like that and see a surgery performed. That's why he was known as the fastest knife in the West End. Like, people wanted him. And the boy in his words, he described that, like, he's only 12 years old and this is happening. And he asked him, you know, any young kid's going to ask, is it going to hurt? And the guy's like, no more than getting a tooth pulled. Getting your leg chopped off. He said it took 6 counts of the bone saw to cut through his leg till it finally came off. And you got to think, that kid died, so it's like, you're hearing his words from him probably going through a severe amount of pain, but still it's like the same thing. Like, that's ridiculous to think.
That is.
You basically rolling the dice if you lived after something like that. You got a splinter in your finger. Well, we can chop it off, or you can just take whatever infection you're going to get and hope it's not something that's going to kill you.
Past medicine is wild.
And it's crazy to think how we still make some of those mistakes today when it comes to like certain things. Like, we still use some of the inventions from back then, like the Liston knife is that little small surgical dagger thing you see. Mm-hmm. We use that in surgeries today, and that was produced back then.
Huh.
And you know the whole idea of barbers, right?
Yeah.
Like with the whole white pole, that used to be a bloodletting thing.
Yeah.
Because they used to go there to get blood let out of you. But what happens is the butchers were surgeons in a way. They were literally the surgeries, like back then. They were the one that knew how to cut and do all this stuff. So you went there to get a teeth pulled, a bullet taken out or something like that. You went to your barber.
And if I'm not mistaken,
that's like
Middle Ages time period, right? When they were doing this, where they were like
19th century type stuff.
Okay, I didn't know because I remember that it was like
18th, 19th century.
It was like like it was. I didn't remember how far back it was that was a thing because I saw a video on it one time as well, but it was a while ago.
Well, you wore your blood on your apron to prove that that was like a badge of honor when people saw that. Oh, he's been on a lot of surgeries, so he must be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, like the whole idea of the white barber pole, and then they tie bloody rags to it, and it become a bloodletting thing to let people know, like, this is where you can get your blood let out. Well, the blood smear created the red line, and like someone designed that as a thing. And then when surgeons and barbers dived off, like there actually became, instead of being a barber who's a surgeon, it was he's now just a barber, and then the other guy's just a surgeon, and they developed their own with a blue one, with a blue pole to it. So it divided them from being surgery or a barber. And then eventually it became the patriotic thing we have today with red, white, and blue is what it's believed to be.
Huh.
And that's just, I find that to be fascinating. I never knew that. And like the first colored television was actually inspired by a Mexican person. Was the person that created it in Mexico. He created the first colored television.
Huh.
And then like you're hearing about like that's not right because Thomas Edison created the light bulb and that whole thing. It's like there were people working on the light bulb in another country and a whole other culture that discovered it way before he did too. Mm-hmm. It's like we didn't have any we didn't have the internet back then. We didn't know what someone else was doing halfway across the world.
Still delivering it by horseback.
But if you look at like freaking anything that we're doing in history, any like mistakes that we're making, we've made them before. We're just remaking everything again. It's like where our phones went from super big to super small to being super big again.
Yep.
Every mistake we're just refollowing the footsteps, and you can trace by looking at another civilization. Like the whole idea of technology being everywhere, and like it seems like the world's becoming so 22nd century, 21st century.
Yeah.
It's like China's been way ahead of the jib on that too, and they already know the downfalls that we're making. Like it's ridiculous to think that we're just basically creating the same problems that went somewhere else. It's like we should just invest a bunch of people to go all these different countries and find out what'd you guys do right and wrong, so we can have a plan, a strategy here.
So we don't fuck up again.
Did you know there's a DNA place and like that's still active today? That's been active for a very long time. That harbors all the world's DNA of species, like any.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That is
a giant place that has everything stored, like a sperm bank, but it's like a bank for your DNA.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So like your DNA somewhere, dinosaurs' DNA, Homo sapiens, everything that's we found through research throughout this whole. Everything that was possibly alive or became something is all coded in this one place. It's like the central cortex.
Yeah, like the hub. The nucleus.
Let's hope a cyclone doesn't hit that shit.
You hear that, kind of in comparison to that, the place, I think it's somewhere near the Arctic, where it has all the seeds of like every plant.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that place, and how global warming's like threatening that, because if it gets warm enough there, something about, and again this is one of those things I don't know a ton of information about, but it's something about the heating actually affecting that place specifically. Like I thought that it was protected like cryogenically, or there would be some system in place like that, but apparently like it would just melt.
It's the Nazi sun gun.
Yeah.
They're focused it in. It's Archimedes' ray is what the original intent design was, but the sun gun was like the better version of it.
Okay.
That's crazy, because there's actually we actually have a laboratory in Antarctica we cannot reach. You know why?
Why that?
It's abandoned because the ice all around it melted.
Oh.
So it's just floating in the middle of nowhere, and we can't get to it because weather conditions are too bad in that area where it's drifted off, where like we just can't make it.
That sucks. Sucks for that thing. I mean...
I wonder, I need to look that up and see if we actually finally got the research, because it was just an abandoned research.
Oh, so the research was still there?
Yes, all of it. They didn't have time to leave.
Wow.
The doctors, they ran out of there. Not doctors, but scientists ran out of there. Like, oh shit.
We gotta go.
And they did, and next thing you know, they left all this valuable information. I don't know if the ice around it melt or it became to a point like where it was like getting like severely cold. Where it was like one of that one movie with Jake Gyllenhaal where like they got to get out of that place before they freeze to death.
Are you talking about Day After Tomorrow?
I think so.
That's the one where it's
the
like
giant storm and the ship that goes.
Yeah. I love that. That was one of my
movie.
favorite movies when I was a kid. That was my first period of being like into weather.
Good movie.
I love that movie.
That's a boner for any person that has a weather fetish.
Oh yeah, dude. It's like the scene, like you're talking about the boats floating through the streets of New York, and then no, thank you. But there's the scene where they're in the library and the
water
big
floods
gust,
in, or
like the frost starts coming through, and they
that's
gotta
nuts,
throw
right?
books on the fire. The one scene where the helicopter, it freezes all the components and they fall out of the sky, and I love that movie. I haven't seen it since probably 10 years now.
They had a ship that came in. It's like 2012, dude. You seen 2012?
I have.
That's probably a boner for you too, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Watching the world
I love
change
disaster movies.
Do you just like the aspect of seeing like what the movie's going to turn the storm into, and wondering if that's ever possible?
I do like all the different scenarios of like, oh man,
if
that
you
would be
had
crazy.
one natural disaster you would fear the most, what would it be?
Honestly, probably tornadoes, just because and it's not something that you necessarily, especially around here, need to be afraid of, but it's just the power of them. Like the chances of a tornado hitting this particular location, I think they did like a study on it. Like if there was a tornado to hit this exact spot, it would happen about every once 1,000 years. So it's relatively low that this specific spot will be hit by a tornado, but there's areas, and that's how they forecast severe weather when there's a storm prediction center, when they come out with predictions, they have color-coded areas of predicting where severe weather could be, and it's not that there's going to be severe weather there, but there's a chance of severe weather within 25 miles of that. So going back to tornadoes, it's like, there's been tornadoes around here, not specifically here, but just that the threat that it produces.
Is that the whole theory that lightning never strikes somewhere twice?
Wait, what's up?
The whole theory, you said that a tornado would never hit in the same spot for 1,000 years or something like that. Is that the whole theory that lightning strikes will never strike twice in the same spot?
I think the thing with that is that it's when you think about it in terms of, since the Earth is so big, there's no possible way that lightning could strike the same place twice. But all lightning is just a channel of electrical particles, so wherever it chooses to strike, it chooses to strike. And, there's it strikes so many different areas that it's like, oh, of course it's not going to strike the same place twice. The storm's moving. There's so many things that go on around it, like the path of least resistance. There's like, there's no way that it'll strike the... What's up?
Light orbs.
Oh, the orb lightning?
Where people mistake those for... Yeah, orb lightning, that's what it's called. For the people that mistake it for UFOs and stuff like that. Yeah. That's nuts too, man. There's so many anomalies and stuff, and like not even just like weather, but like in the world that you don't even notice. Like the weather has so many different forms and different styles. It's like just how every person is their own like individual thing. Mm-hmm. Like that's the same thing with nature, man.
I love it. It's like it has a personality.
It's a mystery we're never gonna understand. That's why people chalk it up to Mother Nature, giving it like a certain type of like characteristic or certain type of form, or if you give it a form to this thing that you don't know anything about, like supernatural and all that type of stuff, like it puts it in a whole new light, and it makes it a little bit understandable for our pea-sized brains to even just gather up any bit of information on.
It's definitely easy to see why people in the past thought that these weather events were like acts of God or acts of their gods, because it's like you don't have any science,
especially when you're so religious back then too, and just wanting something like it. That's it's always been through history, is humans' curiosity, and also wanting a form to be out there that is so mythic, or like just like it seems impossible or unman-like, where it's like the whole idea of aliens being real, like the whole idea of gods and stuff like that. It's just you want something bigger than you. Like the Loch Ness monster, even though that's been proven to be a hoax, it's still something. It's like you want to feel like you're not in full control. Like you don't want to. You want to be able to have someone that's above you that could change it in a second.
Yeah, it's like back like Vesuvius. It's like you're just chilling out by this mountain, and all of a sudden the mountain fucking explodes. It's like, oh, that's God, obviously. Like the mountain exploded. Like we're like you're sitting across the sea, and you're like, all right, well, God was angry at them because the mountain just exploded.
The survivor of Pompeii. Do you know a lot about Pompeii?
Not a lot.
I don't know. Was it just a volcano eruption, like a massive one that came out of nowhere, like right next to the civilization? And like, where was it at though? Is that Rome? It's some type of Mesopotamian place, right?
It's either Rome or Greece. It's one of the. It's in that area. You're definitely right.
I think it's like Rome.
Yeah, it's one. Yeah, I think But I don't remember for sure, but I'm trying to remember some like.
I remember from the night at the museum, it was right next to the Rome display, but it could be the Greeks because they were wearing togas. But I'm pretty sure the Romans wore togas too.
Yeah, it's just let's go in that general area because they're close, right? Rome and Greece are type of.
I mean, they're not close by, but they're neighbors.
Yeah,
like how we're kind of neighbors with Canada. I guess. But that's because the one survivor of Pompeii, there was a survivor, and he actually didn't die by the volcanic ash. What he died by was he was crushed by a giant concrete block, escaping Pompeii.
Wow!
Like you make it out, and a giant concrete block from this volcano fucking lands on your head and kills you.
That's like the dude who
then
survived.
He was fossilized in ash, so we actually have proof that like it's just a dude, and like half of his like upper torso is under where the ground, like where he's sunk in, and it's just a giant square concrete block on top of him, like a creek, like one of those pillar blocks.
Yeah.
And then it's just his legs sticking out like fucking volcanic ash, like it's like a cartoon scene.
It's like the
when the anvil drops on your head.
The witch of the Witch of the West from
where the house falls on and
like,
toes curling.
That's like the dude who survived both the atomic bombings.
Imagine that, though. You go through a freaking volcanic disaster. Your whole family's been, like, burned and, like, turned into mummies, and they're, like, basically in this, like, type of burial. What is it? What does they call when they preserve something? Like a limb or something, like a cadaver piece, they preserve it.
Are you talking about in that, like, the weird jar preserving?
Not the jar, but, like, how you preserve a dead body, like, take out the organs and stuff. And,
ooh, what is that called? I would imagine mummification's the process of just, like...
That's the whole thing, but, like...
protecting a body.
The whole idea of keeping something, like, active, like, where you use cadaver parts.
Yeah, I feel stupid, because I feel like I know what you're talking about.
I literally just heard it, and I'm just thinking that's why I'm forgetting it, too.
Yeah, because I definitely know what you're talking about, and I know the
debombing is what they call it.
Yes, yeah.
Well, when they do that, like, it's preserving stuff. Like, all that volcanic ash preserved those people. And it's crazy to think, like, we have, like, this, where these, you see, like, bodies and stuff of, like, that are covered in volcanic ash, and they're, like, it's a mother and it curled up next to her baby trying to protect from this unnatural force. Yeah, it's, like, one of the famous things. And it's, like, it's also how we can learn to extract DNA from people back then, because it's fossilized forest, you know. And Russia just cloned the first woolly mammoth, and then they're opening up their new park called the Praetorian Park, and it's 250,000 acres, where it's going to be a Russian freaking woolly mammoth run, like, thing with, like, we have all these genetics, like a saber-toothed tiger's genetics, all this stuff that lived, and anything that we know existed, we have, like, code messaging and genetics from. We have proof that it existed.
Because I imagine you would just get that from the bones, right?
Yeah.
You just
it's hard to extract. If you see, first of all, it's hard to find a fossil. It's very hard for a fossil to form. It has to fall in, like, a certain mud or a certain type of like coal or some type of, like, tar. Basically, that's how the dinosaurs. We have so many fossils of them, because there was so much tar back then. It was like they fall into it. That's what fossilized the tar.
Yeah.
And then another only place you can really find a lot of fossils is in the ocean. But we haven't discovered the deep, deep, deep depths of the ocean.
Yeah.
Should we discover the deep, deep depths of the ocean?
Absolutely.
Do you want to know what's down there? Imagine if it's like the Kraken. We unleash this beast that just starts beating the shit out of everybody.
They're actually... Have you seen... I think it's on Blue Planet 2. It's like one of those David Attenborough... Mm-hmm. On that one, I think they went Antarctic or Arctic, one of those two, and they went down to the ocean floor. It was like 3 miles down, I believe. In that area, they just found a glacier, and they just went straight down the side of it in this little submarine. And there was
that's a smart way to do it, because
so much down there.
That you always know that glacier is there, so you know which ways. See, the main problem with going down in a submarine and venturing off is you get lost, and the whole aspect is you don't know what up or down is.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. If you're in space, you know they talk about when you're in a space shuttle, and if they go up. The top of the spacecraft, when it's laying, like if you're going to lay flat on your stomach, your back and your chest. If you're in space and it's like that. There is no sense of direction.
Yeah.
You don't know where you're going without any objects or anything. You're just floating around in space. Everything is up. Everything is down. It's like nothingness. Like there is no direction to your just anything in general. And that's what's fascinating. And like that's where they say you're going to get lost in space. If there were no planets or anything like that, and you didn't have anything like hooked to you, it was just you in space and you're floating forever until you die. Like that's it. Like you're lost. Like it's the same thing with the ocean. They go down so deep, it becomes so black and so surrounded with nothing that they feel lost. They don't know which way's up, even though you jumped in the water directly straight down. You've lost all sense of control, and then your internal compass is gone. Everything's gone. And
it's like when you're at the beach and you get pummeled by a wave and you get taken under. Does that ever happen to you?
Yeah, and you feel like you're in a washer and dryer.
Yeah, and like you don't know where you are.
Isn't that nuts?
That's scary.
Have you ever opened your eyes when that happens? And you see the swirling, it looks like you're in a washer.
I have, because I was like, because I did lose that internal compass, and I got pounded and I went under, and I was like...
You got pounded?
Yeah. Pounded by Mother Nature.
Yeah.
But
She's
it was
always
like...
pounding us somewhere.
Yes, it's just constant.
Fucking winds and then earthquakes and then
24/7 pounding.
Then you gotta worry about a concrete block flying from a volcano and landing on your freaking head.
But you were talking about
That's what he did.
What?
He flicked off Mother Nature when he beat that volcano. Yes! I'm out of here, y'all. And the next thing you know, a giant rock just lands on his head. Son of a bitch.
Oh my god.
So close.
That's you were talking about how we have the woolly mammoth DNA that it reminds me of.
You see the documentary Dino Fish?
I have not.
They found a 600 million year old fish that was around when the dinosaurs were, and it's off the coast of Somalia. There's a documentary on Netflix. You gotta look this documentary up. It's a real life dino fish. It's known as the Pokemon Relicanth.
Yeah.
That thing. It looks like that.
Really?
Yeah. Well, the fishermen in Somalia, the pirates of Somalia, they throw dynamite in the water to catch the fish, and they were blowing up this like coral reef, and they found this like where this dinosaur fish was like a type of hibernation. The main awesome thing about going so deep into the ocean where you don't know where you're at is you can't be affected by anything that happens up here.
Yeah.
So anything that's a dinosaur that is fish related could still be alive if it was deep down in the water, because everything's preserved. That's how those fish lived. Like, that's how they're still alive today. It's preserved, and their time moves slower. Everything seems like it's going slower. Your body will naturally age slower. The conditions down there are different. It's the same reason if you go into space and you try and come back onto Earth and you have to readjust to our gravity.
Yeah.
That's a hard-ass thing to do. You have to go into decompression chambers. The same thing when you're down there. You have to decompress everything after when you come back up here. And it's the main thing. Like, a lot of people hallucinate if they go snorkeling and they go down too far. Even if they have the oxygen mask, your brain just can't get the oxygen whether you're breathing it or not. One dude talked about how his diving friend that he was with took his mask off and started chasing a fish, thinking the fish was drowning, and he was experiencing a type of delusion that you get if you go too deep down into the water. And the bad part is about that, you can't just be like, swim up, swim up, swim up. The person's going nuts, and the next thing, you can't swim straight up in the air. You can't go right back up to the surface. Like, if you're in a pool and you dive in, you just pop yourself right back up. You can't do that in the ocean. You know why?
There's a pressure difference.
You get the fucking bends, man.
What is it? Shit. Because I've read about it like 20 times, but every time that I read about it, I've always forgotten. Like, is it just because of the change in pressure that it affects your
organs, everything, your bones? It's got to readjust. It's the whole when astronauts come down, they have to decompress too. They have to do that or they'll get the bends because they've been floating around for so long. It's the main reason why when they get back on Earth, they start like having to work out again. They have to do all this stuff to try and get their body back. Like, you have to take physical therapy. You got to do something for, depending on how long you're up there and how serious your condition is. Like, because you lose a bunch of stuff, muscle mass. If you're not doing things, this is why when they put on their suits and they go onto the moon, sometimes they'll do like weight exercises where they have weights in their hands trying to make them their normal weight so they can be able to walk and like be able to first of all just. It's exercise.
Yeah, I didn't know they had like regimens up there. Like,
well, think if you're 175 and then you try and go and like they have to get something that can stabilize it, and you think, won't the weights just float?
Yeah.
It's like they have to find a way to stabilize it and get like hook it to the ground and be able to create a certain type of pressure. But that goes with the whole aspect. How is everything staying on the moon that we have? You know, the government at one point tried to make a plan to go on to. It was like Operation, it's not Moon, but Operation something with an M. It's a ridiculous, cool-ass name for it. But it was making a secret government base on the moon.
Okay.
We had an idea to do that. It was failed, but it's the whole... We had like scales, models, and everything built. This is around the time of the space races. And I was just learning about this today. I'm like, that's nuts. Because, you know, there's Project MK Ultra.
Yeah.
All the mind control and stuff that's now coming out. And then, like, we're getting files on this stuff. And... It's just crazy to think, but when you think about gravity, like the whole idea of gravity, we thought for so long that it only had one wavelength. And it came out that there's two wavelengths. And you know who, first of all, even opened the world up to gravity wavelengths having two forms, A and B?
Who's that?
Bob Lazar. You know what Bob Lazar did? I did my first episode of my podcast on him, fill in the blank.
Okay.
He's the one that gave light to Area 51 and UFOs. What he did was he worked at a secret hangar near Sector 7 where they were making UFO technology, and he witnessed one of these and he came out and said it. for the past 40 years, like he's felt like he's been spied on by the government. He's been known as a conspiracy theorist because he said gravity wavelengths have two forms, A and B. You know what A, like gravity form A is?
What's it? No.
How you pick up your drink and then when you put it back down, and that's gravity. Me dropping a pen, that's gravity, okay? There's another wavelength. You know what wavelength B is?
No. What's that?
Same thing with UFOs, where they have that circle in the bottom of the saucer, and it just randomly can fly up in the air, and people talk about being able to stop on a dime and turn in the complete opposite direction or do something like that and fly at like this weird propulsion where it's like hovering. That's gravity B, it's just going up.
Huh.
And he said that for 40-something years. FBI erased all his documents to all the proof that he went to any MIT, any type of school. Harvard did not have any of his college degrees anymore. He's like, but I went here. So he's sitting there preaching to everybody, and everyone's calling him a liar and a conspiracy theorist. And then in December of 2018, an institution is now getting the Nobel Prize because they found out gravity wavelengths have two forms, A and B. So now everyone's like, we need to look back at Bob Lazar. Now he's got a documentary out that's called like the redemption of, not redemption, but it's like the truth of Bob Lazar. And it's like, you got to think for 40 years, everyone's calling you a nut job and saying you're a freaking idiot. And the next thing you know, now everyone's apologizing. You're like, I'd be like, fuck you.
Because that the whole thing with that you're talking about where they officially came out and said that it's a thing. That was just a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
The whole institute in Los Angeles, this just happened in December.
Oh, December?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's way...
In December, they're getting the Nobel Peace Prize. That institution is officially getting the Nobel Peace Prize.
Because it just happened recently, right? Where they found out.
Yes, this is all real. That this is in our time, like this year, man. December, like I think it was like before Christmas or something. I was like, that was his freaking Christmas present, man. Isn't that nuts?
Yeah, that's awesome.
December of 2018, you find out, you're not that one crazy man shouting at the store is not the bad guy. That makes you look into the aspect of hobos on the subway.
Yeah.
Maybe they're in the light. You don't want to be like Heaven's Gate type people. You know what Heaven's Gate is?
No, I don't.
In 1997, the group of people in Santa Fe, Mexico, that killed themselves thinking that they were gonna go and be transported on a spaceship.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
Now you hope they're not like that, but maybe some of the hobos got the answers. They're like Plato, where Plato believed in Atlantis. It's like, is there an Atlantis? Is there an underwater sea people? That's one thing I would love to know.
Yeah,
because I'm fascinated with living underwater. We got all this from I said, what's the worst thing that you can possibly think of as a natural disaster? And we somehow got into all this stuff. Because you brought up conspiracies about hurricanes and then the government controlling it. And then I got my conspiracy brain going, legends going.
And here we are.
But what's your one that you're fascinated about the most? You said your scariest one's hurricanes. What's one that you would love to experience? Like, what's the one you don't see as the biggest problem that we have as that you wouldn't fear the most? So it would be the complete opposite. You'd be like, I'll take that one over anything.
It depends, because here we don't really get it. And
if you say tsunamis, I'm going to slap the crap out of you.
It's not going to be tsunamis. Not a mass casualty event here.
That's a fucking terrible one.
I just want to see some hail. I want to see some... It never happens around here.
Have you watched the first 5 minutes of Godzilla?
Well, around here...
That freaking giant, football-sized chunk of hail falling from the freaking thing and hits that Japanese guy in the head, and all you hear is the crack of his skull and his neck break. You're like, fuck!
There was the world record hailstone is over 2 pounds. 2 pounds of ice. That's horrifying.
You gotta look up this video on YouTube. It's this dude, he goes, got some hail coming in. Better get in the house. And he's sitting in the house and he's videotaping his pool. Then all you see is this giant, massive storm coming. Like, the pool, you see the waters go boosh, like someone's dropping bowling balls from space into the thing. Imagine if you're out in that, there's got to be people out there that's been killed by hail.
Oh, absolutely. There was a...
little Timmy gets pelted to death.
There was an event in India in like 1977 somewhere, or late 70s, early 80s. Get this. Hailstorm killed 900 plus people. Like, legit. Like, this one event just came, and I guess it's because...
How do you chalk up that to I want to bring that to the aspect of, because the way I think of a thunderstorm is like, people say it's God bowling, because you know the sound of the pins.
I used to hear that.
How would you think of that for hail?
He's throwing some dice. He's on the betting table.
And he's throwing dice as hail? I said maybe he like fucking sneezes.
Maybe he's a betting man. I don't know.
Maybe he's going through like the bird flu or some shit. He's just sneezing constantly.
Yeah.
I got allergies.
Yeah.
Hail is the boogers.
It's his boogers. It's his boogers.
God's boogers. What's a hurricane? Laryngitis? God's got laryngitis? What would you chalk up to a hurricane? I guess a tsunami would be like diarrhea.
Oh God.
Right?
So I guess a hurricane might be kidney stone.
How is a kidney God's kidney? God's given his kidney. Why does it have to be we say bowling for thunder, say sneezing for hail. Why are we now sticking to bodily fluids? Maybe God's during a hurricane. Maybe God's got a.
Well, if it's an activity, maybe he's like playing the turntables.
He's doing yoga.
He's yoga.
He's doing yoga.
Okay.
Deep breathing exercise.
Okay, I can see that.
That's an activity and an emotion or a physical.
Storms rotating, breathing in, wind's coming this way, breathing out, wind's going that way.
And what the hell is an earthquake? Did he like have a Thanksgiving dinner and now he's just like walking around his heaven?
Maybe it's a massive fart.
Oh, and a bodily eruption.
Yeah, another one.
The Earth's bodily erupting when we have volcanoes.
Yeah, that's another one. That's true.
I want to know what happens when you get, if there is another side. If you get to the other side and you're that guy that got crushed by a concrete block after surviving Pompeii. And like God's just like, you just had to gloat, didn't you? And he's like, you just had to flick me off. He had to do all that, and he's like, I had to. I survived the volcano. I was making you the only survivor.
He just
you were
shows
have
up.
a story. You had to be grateful. It was a religious thing, like Jonah or with Noah and the ark.
Yeah.
And you took it, and I had to just murder you for
you just shit all over it.
Shit all over it. Like imagine if God gave Noah the tools to. He gave him the tools and that whole thing. Imagine if he just did not let any of the animals on the fucking thing.
He just builds his boat and he's like, I'm out.
You guys need to be here at 10:30, okay? Everyone shows up at like 11.
Yeah.
No, I said 10:30. The doors are going up. All the animals are outside. Like, no way, this shit's happening. He's not gonna leave us. Now he's traveling down the river. He fucking left us.
Yeah, I told you to be here at 10:30, you know?
10:30. God said, what the hell? That's the whole point of me saving you. You were supposed to save these animals. He goes, they weren't on time.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. Gotta be punctual.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we have punctual plumbers.
If you can't be punctual to your own extinction, then you gotta go extinct.
You gotta make sure your hair's right.
Yeah,
before you
that's true.
That's why you're 5 minutes late. I had to stop at the store.
That's true. If you're gonna survive, you might as well look good.
Yeah, and you got your friends with you. You gotta understand how late you get with your friend. We're just taking a real shit on religion here. And then Moses with the whole spreading of water, telling me is Moses the cause of all tsunamis?
Maybe.
They talk that up to being the burning of the cicacia tree, that cicacia bush, because it gives like peyote like us, like a type of like DMT type trip. You end up getting so freaking high you don't know what's going on. So I believe that's how the story comes from, like him parting the sea. He didn't actually do that. Maybe he just like splashed some water up. Like maybe Jesus, instead of walking on water, was just standing on 2 centimeters of water. I can stand, guys.
Huh. That you talking about DMT reminds me. This is very Joe Rogan-esque right here, talking about drugs. Do you remember that? Remember when they used to sell salvia in Ocean City?
What?
Yeah.
I don't even know the full depths of salvia.
Salvia is ridiculous. It's like taking LSD and putting it into weed that you smoke, and then so it's like a 5-minute, 10-minute like acid trip that you smoke out of a bowl.
I mean,
have you seen videos of people doing it?
You get fucked up. I know that. You end up like nodding out and going to sleep. I know a couple kids in school that did it, but I never knew what it was. I know there's a thing called ester. You know what ester is?
Yeah.
That stuff you put like on a strawberry, dip it in champagne, then drink it. Like there's still bars that sell drinks like that. Huh. And that's the stuff that really messes you up.
Yeah. Drugs are weird. It's weird, like, thinking in the past,
they're
like, people
good
who are
and
just
bad,
like,
okay?
I'm going to take this and see what happens.
They're good and bad.
Definitely.
I mean, but you can say, how would someone think to even try it? Like, how does someone go, I'm going to take this, I'm going to put this in my mouth to eat it. How the hell did we discover milk?
It's another one.
We decided to pull on a cow.
Like, let's see what's going on here.
And the milk comes out and decide to drink it. Like, who's the sick guy that did that?
Yeah.
You know, do you want to be the guy that comes out as, I discovered milk. Well, how'd you do it? Well, I just do this. Oh, I do the same thing with my dog. It's like...
How many discoveries
what
of that nature do you think was just, like, these freak shows who were just satisfying their own urges, and they were like, turns out this is actually pretty
alright. I would like
right.
to see a book that's like everything in history that's ever been created and the origin of it.
Yeah.
Like a quick little summary, like a little short story.
Like one of the fascinating things, some of the most fascinating people on Earth are those like
Theodore Roosevelt,
the dude who got frozen on a mountain like 100,000 years ago or whatever. Like one of those people that it's one of the earliest like Homo sapiens that we found. Yeah. Like when you think about it, like thousands of years in the future, we have this corpse that we have. But when that dude was alive, they were just doing their thing, hunting and foraging for berries and stuff. The fact that so much history.
They knew the question if the bear shit in the woods.
That's true.
We didn't know.
We just didn't have writing, so we didn't write it down.
We just had Smokey and Snuff the Crime Dog.
Yeah.
But when Teddy Roosevelt, okay, for example, I said him. He got his eye, like he went blind in one eye because in a boxing match when he was president. While he was president, he was in a boxing match, got hit so hard that it disconnected the cornea of his eye. Also, if you see mugshots of like, apparently Rosa Parks, there's no pictures of her mugshot. Apparently, that's just not available. But like Jimi Hendrix never got arrested, and he doesn't have a mugshot photo either. But Joe Rogan has them in his house, but he took them down because he's like realized they're fake. But like Rosa Parks' story is actually another person's story. Like, you think that was Rosa Parks that happened to? No, it happened to someone before her. And the real Betty Boop, the person that we model after some famous actress, supposed to be Martha, what is it? Marilyn Monroe or something. Yeah. You know, you picture, that's who the cartoon, everyone thinks, oh, it's Marilyn Monroe or it's whatever. No, it's actually a famous black jazz singer. She used to use boops and beeps when she talked. And when she sung, she would sing boop, bop, beep, and do that, add that to her music flow. And that's actually what inspired the real creation. And what happened was another artist saw that and decided to do that in her own thing. And so it wasn't Marilyn Monroe, it was another famous singer back in the day. And she totally stole the spotlight from this woman. And it's like, there's all these famous people that are not, like, we think of, oh, why does every white invention seem to be something that we use today? It's like, it's not true. We just got inspiration from somewhere else some of the times. Like, but I mean, there might be sometimes it's the other case, like Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla was a smart guy. You know, the guy that invented the Tesla coils? Well, they had a battle to see, one was trying to believe that direct current was correct, and what was Thomas Edison trying to prove? Forgot what, control current or something?
It was like AC and... Are you talking about like the alternating current?
Alternating current and direct current.
You're talking about this stuff, yeah.
Okay, well, they actually fried an elephant trying to prove who was right, and they did that in front of people. Like, that's all people were searching for. It's like, it's inspiration, it's entertainment for them. Like, seeing surgery, seeing all this stuff, but all the mistakes we made, and just like, we were learning, we're still learning, but it's like, it's hard to think what's going to come next in 10 years. But the next thing you know, 10 years from now, like, why were we doing it this way? Or why was, you know, it's crazy to think how far we're going to become and then how far we have become. And it's like, I'm fascinated with old school type stuff. I believe one day the Earth's going to reset itself for sure. I believe it just has to. It has to, you know, take everything out, whether it's an apocalypse. That's the one thing they say that's good about human genocide, like it's population control. You know, we do that's why China has a limit on how many kids you can have. It's like you start your resources are not infinite. They're not here forever. How long do you want to make your civilization last? And like it just goes back to that whole thing where you're talking about the caveman and ice. Like that's something that happened and we have evidence, and that's probably sent to that genetic bank somewhere. It's just crazy to think that we're all in this world and we're all somehow able to interact. Not that we all get along, but the whole thing, like that we live with these other people, and it's like everyone's got their own little story and thing going on. And that's why I wanted to start podcasting.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's cool.
Well, it's cool. It's just crazy because people are like, I don't think I'm that interesting. I'm like, you are. You have a story.
Yeah.
Everybody's interesting, whether I think you are or not. It's like someone else out there is going to hear it, and even if my podcast never gets popular, it's in history now.
Yeah.
Every word we've ever spoken, everything we've ever said is, first of all, not only recorded, but it's like that's also put in the past now. It's also part of our past. You're always going to have that written into your memory, so it's somewhere. It's logged somewhere forever. But the whole idea is being able to log. You know that whole fascination of being able to log into, like, memories that have been repressed or something like that. Like, it's a psychological thing, too, like dealing with, when you have psychological issues or some type of trauma, sometimes a certain thing can trigger back that trauma, like, or a certain amount of impactful trauma can make you forget a situation. It's crazy to think that everything we've ever seen, everything we've ever experienced, or anything that we've done through this life is somewhere logged in the back of our head somewhere. And it's just like, what's the capabilities of being able to reach that? And a lot of it has to do with electrotherapy and trying to shock yourself into remembering. But it's like, it's crazy to think how you can walk into a store, smell something, and then go right back to your childhood. Like, you feel like a little kid again walking around. Like I remember one time I walked in a store, and a smell hit me, and like the lights hit my eyes in a certain way, and it brought me back to Florida, like when I was a little kid at my grandma's house. And I was like, holy shit, like I was about to tear up. I was like, this is like crazy. And it's so crazy how our senses can impact us in such a euphoric way.
It is.
It's like a drug.
Yeah.
You talk about drugs being crazy, you know.
Our body,
Our mind is the most craziest drug of all.
Pumping all that dopamine and all those other chemicals, reward chemicals, punishment chemicals.
That's a main reason people get addicted, is because that release of dopamine gets you food addicted, gets you drink addicted, gets you gambling addiction, and then it becomes like a psychological need. And then eventually your body's like, I actually do need it. And it's like tricking itself. But like where you say drugs, I think they're good and bad, man. I believe like your brain doesn't fully develop until you're 25. You can overdose on marijuana. It's called the overgrown effect. It's basically your whole body tries to shut itself down. It's the same thing if you drink too much and you're about to black out. Your body it calls it a blackout because it's shutting itself off to stop any more damage from assuming to it. So
well, the thing with marijuana, isn't it, you have to have like some ridiculously
you have to smoke like 10 times your body weight.
But it's like horrible amount.
You can overdose on nicotine, you can overdose on water, you
Yeah.
can overdose on anything in this world if you do too much of it, okay? But when you overdose, like the most common thing, I have OD'd on pot before. I have not died from it, but I have dosed myself a little bit too much, what they call it the overgrown effect.
Yeah.
Or
they call it a greening out.
Green
too.
out, that's what it's called.
I saw a video of a dude take a 1 gram dab and he greened out. It's like, dude, why would you take that? That's horrible. That's horrifying. There was this dude one time who was like, and feel free to answer this yourself because
I'm going to end up telling you experience on it, trust me.
He goes, if someone were to give you a 1 gram dab for free, would you take it? And I was like, absolutely not, because it would ruin probably not only my day, but probably the next couple of days after.
My buddy did a 1.5 gram dab at his house, and I've never tried a dab before, but I was known to this is around high school time, so I was like junior year, senior year, so I was like, that's where I was barely showing up. I was just watching the movie Step Brothers or Friday constantly, and eating
good choices.
Eating a good giant bowl of cereal. You did the Step Brothers video with me.
I miss making those videos.
We got to get back to doing it again, for sure. I want to start doing like dinner nights too, like having like all of us back, like connecting, because we haven't talked in like years.
Yeah,
man, it seems like
definitely.
And but like I remember he was going to hit it, and he's like, "You want to hit this?" I was like, "Sure." And I just got Chick-fil-A, and I remember I hit it, and he held it, and I finished the whole thing. I had never done one before. Fuck. it felt like someone turned the saturation colors up on my eyes. Everything became a brighter color. Like what happens is when you take a drug, depending on what the drug's effects are, it can bring you to a spiritual plane type way. Or a lot of people get really like spiritual with marijuana or some type of DMT or some type of trip or acid trip or something, and they kind of relax. It's like that lifting the veil. It's like a transporting you in a new vehicle to, it makes your mind think of a whole new way. Ever since I very first tried pot, I have a whole new experience of the world that's different from this one. So it's hard to tell which one's the drugged up experience. Was the one that I was on pot where my senses were more sensitive. I could feel something in deeper detail. I can see colors better. Is that the real life? Or is the one I'm constantly living now the one I've always known the real one? And once you start smoking so much where you're smoking like every day for years and years and years and years, and next thing you know it's 40 years later and you're just been high all the time, without it, it's like you don't know how to function because you're so used to functioning on it. And it's like that's the same thing.
Take that away.
Yeah. And the same thing you'd be taking the drugs, but it feels like if you feel like your life's a cartoon, you get the good side of marijuana and you get like constantly, you never have a bad trip, you never have a bad experience. It's like, wow, it's awesome. Why would you stop if it makes your life better? You're still able to function and create a sustainable life, but it's like then you stop and next thing you know you can't function at your job anymore. You can't provide for your kids anymore because you're just getting depressed that your whole life is like desensitized.
Yeah.
And a lot of us like through society and life are very desensitized, not even just trying drugs, but the whole aspect of like we're so consumed and going in autopilot all the mode. It's like all the time. It's like you're not obsessed with what's in front of you, the true aspects of things. You're losing the connection to the earth and the connection to your just life in general.
That's a big thing for me too. Like,
I get in my comfort zone too, man. And the next thing you know, you don't want to do anything. Next thing you know, it's the next day, and next thing you know, it's a year later. It's like someone might as well just hit you in the head with a hammer, put you in a coma for 10 years, and then you're done.
You just show up on the other side.
You just wake up 10 years later like, what? I'm 30 now? What have I done?
It's like the
same thing you've been doing for 30 years, just over and over again.
It's like it's 2019 now. I'm almost coming up on a full 4 years since I graduated. It does not feel like 4 years since we got out of high school almost.
And you kind of look back and like, what the fuck did I do?
Yeah.
Like my brain's always going to be different from smoking. And I wouldn't want to take another drug and just being afraid. Like if I take an acid trip, I know I wouldn't be able to handle it. My thoughts are never, I never have, like I have positive like way of talking, but when it comes to thoughts, there's just so much distortion and pain hidden behind.
At least you know that though.
Yeah, it's like I'm aware of it. I know it's there. Like Van Gogh, one of the most famous artists, painters. That Starry Night thing. Where is it? Oh, I don't have it in here. I used to have a Starry Night painting, but like the whole aspect of that's a view from his insane asylum window, his mental hospital window. And it's ridiculous to think that like he found beauty in that, and like the swirled aspect of like where you look at art and you can when you psychoanalysis. I wrote a paper on it. It got published. I'm always gonna say that because it's fucking awesome. But the whole psychology is what obsesses me. Like I'm in class for that right now and just dealing with like how the brain works is just so fascinating. I always chalk it up to and I only had one person guess it before I could finish saying it. The scene in Men in Black, I chalk my brain up, like the brain up to that scene in Men in Black where they're zooming out of the universe and it's in a marble and it's in a bunch of aliens playing with the marbles and it goes out even farther. I picture our brain like the galaxy. It's just all this stuff wrapped into one, all these different like explosions, stars bursting, like all these different creative sparks and everything like that. It's just nuts to think.
One of the things when you talk about that with galaxies and the universe, it reminds me, the some of the alternate theories that it wasn't maybe the Big Bang, but that we have our universe and then they're called like bubble universes where there's one over here and there's one over there.
Different paradigms and stuff like that. Like there's a Chase talking to me that's black and
yeah, definitely
different.
But what interests me about that is the concept of, from my simpleton mind, this water is in this cup is in this room's in this house. Everything is in something else and everything else goes into you can shrink down and you can go out and expand. So I've always, one of those big space thoughts that I've always, like, confused myself with when I start thinking about it. What is the universe in? it's hard for my mind to understand something that just is and does not have some, like, if the universe just is here
We
and
are
it's
in
not
an Oreo in God's container of his virtual reality and croc wearing ass on Mars, eating a bag of Funyuns and then skipping on the Oreos. So we're just sitting in there waiting for our destined time.
Well, there's no proof against that.
Consumed by the great Pastafarian deity.
No proof against it.
Exactly. There's a Church of the Flying Pink Unicorn, so they believe in a giant pink unicorn that changes all things. That's the whole aspect of, how there's different topics or different subjects. Well, each subject has a topic, and then each topic has a subcategory, and then those categories are categories, and they have stems off, and then different types of things.
Yeah. It's the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and then you can get that with religion. Religion shapes off into sacred and different stuff like that, and then also parody religion. Parody religion, Pastafarianism is a parody religion. You chalk it up to that. We have so many classifications for things. It's nuts how our mind keeps figuring out how to label everything. I still don't understand the damn Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah.
But fuck it. It's crazy, dude, because we all are living here together, and even though we barely touched on your job, what you do.
Oh, that's fine. I don't like talking about myself, It's...
Yeah. What do you mean talking about yourself? We talked about everything.
Well, I mean, in the sense of, because I don't do much, I'm more of
It's hard to realize that, though, and then make changes for it, because we get so comfortable, man. You were saying, you fall fault with it, too. I do it, too, man. I get comfortable and feel like I'm not progressing, but...
I just feel more like, I'm more about, I'm not, spiritualistic, but I tend to put more stock into things that make me happy rather than things that,
I wouldn't classify myself as being spiritualistic, but I classify myself as being just, not in a form of enlightenment, but just being like someone took their sunglasses off. I feel like I can learn how to enjoy the world a lot better than what I was doing before. I don't believe it's 100% right way, but I believe it feels like the right way for me.
Yeah, and, I just do what I want to do.
Yeah, well, as long as you're able to do what you do and not kill anybody, but don't be like Buffalo Bob or something that's chopping people up and punch the lotion on the skin.
Well, I don't think I have any of that in me, so I don't think anyone has to worry.
There you go.
as long as I'm not flying off the handle,
turning into a Jack the Ripper type.
Yeah,
they believed he was a surgeon because of the tools he used.
I heard about that before. Yeah.
Yeah, they had a couple of Victorian surgeons that were accused of it, and also Robert Lister. I keep saying Landon because I keep thinking of Landon Calrissian for some reason from Star Wars. Okay, so Robert Lister. Okay, he actually was one of the guys that exposed another surgeon of committing a murder of a girl that was killed 4 months before because he had the cadaver body. At one point, there was a thing called body snatching. We still do that today, but back in the day, what they would do is they would rob graveyards and stuff like that, and they would use the bodies as cadavers, sell them to hospitals, sell them to medical students, sell them for that stuff. And eventually, there was this couple people that ended up killing other people because they ran out of stashed bodies, so they would just start killing people. Well, this Robert Lister caught one of the guys, and the dude was experimenting on him in front of a bunch of medical students. And Robert Lister saw that and said, this girl died 4 months ago and no one's been able to find her yet. How do you have her body? And he pulled her out of there after tackling the guy to the ground and threatening his life, and then ended up taking him to court and all that type of stuff. And it's he did a great thing right there, but it's body snatching has been constant, and people selling organs. I just looked up the actual fact of how much a human body is worth. It's $80,000 your skin can go on the black market for. And then there's people that still sell black market organs today. Waking up in a bathtub of ice and kidneys, getting taken out. That's a real thing. There was an actual organization, it's the PRU, there was the public something DNA something. Well, a couple of people there got busted. Not the central bank that keeps all our genetics, but keeps like all the organs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Three of the guys that worked there got arrested and sent to jail for like 80 something years because they were selling the organs to like other people. Like they were hospitals. They were selling it to hospitals, and the unethical hospitals were giving them and putting them in as transplants. That's against human ethics and the laws that we have that go like that with Geneva Convention with torture and stuff. There's a law for like you cannot give somebody an organ if the body has not been diagnosed to have an illness. If the body's been diagnosed as having cancer, you cannot give them that organ from that body. They're just that person's not an organ donor anymore. Those organs go to waste. You can't use them. You can use them for research, I guess.
Yeah. Can't use them for another person.
And it was unethical. Like back then, a lot of people got sick and died because these body snatching things that were going on, where they're getting new organs from these hospitals, and a lot of people didn't know about it. That was happening back then, but they would die later because they're like, how did the person develop freaking whatever after getting a new spleen? It's like, well, the one body they didn't test and figure out that one body was a carrier of this certain type of STD. Next thing you know, bam. That person dies of the STD. It's like it just competes the reading cycle. It's like it brings up to the whole idea of what's going on now in our time that's relevant to us is late-term abortion. Like telling a mother that their baby passed away, even though you have the baby in your hands and it's alive, it's not dead, and then you send it off and then harbor the organs from it and test on it, and that's how we get stem cells. It's like a fresh, blank fetus. Isn't that nuts?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Like people,
I don't know anything about that.
Hospitals right now, there's been a couple that have been exposed besides selling organs and stuff like that. But like they're telling the mother, your baby has a heart tumor, like while it just came out, so it's not going to last long. And then they go, do you want to keep it? The baby's already born. What do you mean you want to try and do a late term abortion? Especially when it's in like its last trimester and the woman's pregnant and she goes, what do you mean my baby has something wrong with it where it's going to be like this forever? Do I want to keep it? Making her ask her that option and then possibly not knowing if not knowing if you're lying to her, but like saying that your baby's going to be fucked up before it comes out or messed up before it comes out, and then you give them the right to sign that baby's life away to them, then they can do whatever they want with that baby. So they have vans and trucks and all this stuff come in there and pick up the same thing. Same thing with like a motorcycle person that gets into a car accident. Alex Jones talks about this and it really gives light to it. Like, oh, his back's broken, but he has no next of kin, and he might be in a coma for a while. Well, let's just take his organs and give them to the football player that needs a kidney transplant. Dude, motorcycle guy accident's 30 years old, but you don't know when he's going to wake up, so you just decide to chalk it up to death and then pull the cord out. It's ridiculous. We take some serious steps in the way we think of things, and sometimes they're not serious enough because we look at things like, whoa, should we really be doing that?
Yeah.
Like, is that ethical? I understand what you're reasoning from it, but like the way we do all these secret government experiments, you're like, wow, I can't believe we did that. It's like, and they chalk it up to an act of war. I mean, if you think in that way, I guess you can be blind ignorance, but how long are you going to be ignorant to the world?
Yeah.
How long are you going to be ignorant to the world, Chase? Not on all the problems or anything like that, but just things in your life that you want to do, and things are you going to ignore? Are you going to learn to take life like trying to carry 50,000 groceries in the house at once, all in one trip? You're going to grab as much as you possibly can and enjoy the ride?
I do that, yeah, just...
I'll break my arms.
But I mean, real quick, because you were talking about the black market.
Okay.
How much skin. This is just a funny story. It's not like...
A human body goes from $50,000 to $200,000 in the black market.
Well, this is why it's funny, because there was this dude I know in Pennsylvania.
Oh God!
And this person was arrested, and there was like a post on Facebook about this dude who was an undercover police officer, and this dude was trying to like buy someone. It was like human trafficking deal.
Yo, let me get an eye. Yeah. Let me get an eye, yo.
But he wanted the whole person. He wanted the whole live person, and the police officer is like, the weird part. He's like, it's like I want this girl, and he's like, okay, I have a girl. He was like, starting to get a little sketched out. So he's like, let me see a picture of this girl. Like, the cop can't just look up a picture of like some stock photo of some girl and be like, here you go. So that's the first thing that this perpetrator misses out on. But then he goes, okay, this all checks out, not as suspicious anymore. He goes, how much? And the cop goes like, 600. And the dude's like, all right, sweet. And I was like, if you could buy another human being for $600, we would still be the whole world would run off of slavery.
I work at a hotel, and I see all the time, we get seminars and training programs we have to go through when summer starts rolling around and when we start getting super busy because of human trafficking. It happens in hotels. I think almost every time.
See, that's sad.
In Ocean
that's
City,
really sad.
At least one hotel has to experience human trafficking. They're little girls, whether like you don't know, because sometimes they'll just sit in the room all the time. You got to make sure that you got to watch out for some signs too, and it's just the fact like you see something that doesn't seem right or strikes you off. Don't be afraid. Excuse me again. So just mention like a little girl, are you safe? Like, is this your actual parent? And they're gonna lie to you sometimes, man. They get what's that syndrome?
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, Stockholm syndrome. They get something like that, man, where they become like in love, or they become like family with the killer, or the family with the kidnapper. It's hard, dude, because like I said, our minds are so sensitive. Any slight trauma just affects it in so many ways. It can be, very, very, very impactful, or it might not be.
Mm-hmm. The mind is interesting. Oh, that also reminds me. You were talking about, you're getting me on the topic, like, the brain, because it is interesting. There was this post I saw the other day, and it was, you ever go on Reddit? The Today I Fucked Up subreddit?
It's like creepypasta. Just constant information of shit getting shoved into your face.
I know. Reddit's like, I have a love-hate relationship.
Like the interview where he's like, Gollum, manja, people, give me the shit, it's all you want is that information.
It's like, Reddit, I have a love-hate relationship with Reddit, but there was this post of this dude who, he nicked his balls on, like, doing something, maybe shaving.
Don't do this to me.
But
Please stop.
He was like, okay, he stops the bleeding, and he's like, all right, time to take a bath. And he starts getting in the bathtub, and he's woken up by his wife screaming. Now, apparently, he hadn't stopped the bleeding.
I know what you're talking about. Stop. I know. I heard this before, dude.
So it looks like he killed himself. He hadn't.
Okay,
but the interesting thing is...
It went a different way.
Well, the interesting thing is... he's totally fine. He's like, oh my god, like, what's going on? Why are you screaming? And his wife is, like, incoherent because she just thought her husband, like, killed himself. The weird thing is, he's totally fine, but in her mind, that trauma happened. And even, like, seeing afterwards that he's okay, that trauma still happened, and that it still, like, fucked her up.
You can wake up some nightmares thinking it actually happened and it didn't.
Even though that's so weird. That's the
same idea with how the brain, like when you have a really strong dream and you wake up and you think it actually happened, you're like, holy shit. Like, you ever woke up when you were sleepwalking?
I have not.
I did it once. I was laying in bed and I don't know if someone came home and slammed something so hard that it just like woke myself up, but somehow I was in like a sleepwalking mode. And because you can be like laying down and be in a sleepwalking mood. Like my one buddy sleeps with his eyes open, so it's not ridiculous. But I'm laying in bed and my whole room is flipped.
Huh.
Like my bed was on the other side, but really my eyes were like, it felt like my eyes were upside down. Like I was looking at the world through a mirror. And I was like, I have not moved anything. Nobody's moved anything. And I would try and stand up and only my arms would move. And then I would try and move my arms and my legs would move. I'm like, what the hell? Am I in a dream state right now? It was so hard to... Because when you figure out you're in a dream, when you're in a dream, like you know you're in there.
Yeah.
What is that called? It's some type of...
Lucid
dreaming, yes.
Yeah.
Lucid
Never
dreaming.
had it. Unfortunately, I've tried, but...
All you gotta do is just realize you're in a dream, man. Your dream can't... You can't look at clocks in a dream. Like, it doesn't... You can't tell time in a dream. There's no, like, number system, basically. You can't write in a dream.
Yeah.
You can't do certain things.
Well, what's weird is I haven't ever lucid dreamt, but I have this, and tell me if you have this, because it's really weird, and I think about it sometimes, where I call it the dream part of my brain, where it's taking care of, like, all right, you're taking a drive, you're going on your way to Subway to get a sandwich, or whatever is happening in the dream.
Daydreaming.
And then there's the part of my brain that is, like, me... like spectating the dream. I'm not lucid dreaming, And maybe I'm just
You're hovering over your body, watching yourself.
Well,
it's an out-of-body experience type deal, but you can get that when you dream. You can get that when you dream.
Well, kind of, but it's like whenever something eventually unrealistic happens because it's a dream, and my mind is watching it, and it's like me sitting back. It's like a director's cut. Like, every time I dream, it's like it has a director's cut, and my mind is like...
You're watching yourself on, like, a TV show.
Yeah. But, like, let's say the guitar over here, let's say this is the dream, I'm in a room here, and then the light turns on, but it's really, snakes. And the part of my brain that's watching will be like, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's not what a light looks like, but I'm not lucid dreaming. It's like I'm sitting back like... Nah, that's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. But the dream is still going on as normal.
It's a movie playing in your head.
It's really weird. It's kind of funny sometimes because it's like whenever, because every time something unrealistic happens. When you experience
something like that, it's like you like it feeling like the third person type view in a way.
Have you ever had sleep paralysis?
Yes, I've had that before. You can't move. That's what happened when I woke up from sleep thing, and my whole body was mixed up.
Because that's what reminded me of is when you were talking about that.
Yeah.
So the very first time that I heard about sleep paralysis, I was like, oh my god, that's horrifying. I better not get this shit now. Got it that same night.
You jinxed yourself.
And never again since.
You jinxed yourself.
I did. I totally did. I was like, I had just learned about it, and I was like, this is fucking horrifying, and I never want this to happen to me. Happened to me that very same night.
That placebo effect, if someone tells you it's still working.
And it was scary too, because I was at Tyler's house, and I was sleeping on the couch because there was no other bed space, and I was sleeping facing the couch. So not only can I not move, but I can also not see anything except for the fabric right here. So my mind's just going haywire, coming up with all this auditory hallucinations.
Keeping up the noise.
And as soon as I woke up, and I was like, okay, time to readjust. And as soon as I tried to move, I was like, here we go. I was like, I was like, all right, this is sleep paralysis. Like, don't freak out. Everything that's about to happen is not real. It was still horrifying, but it was like one of those scenes in a movie where I'm just like, it's not fucking real. It's not real. Just
it's hard to kind of snap yourself out of that.
It is,
because once you get locked in a position like that, you're like, you feel like you've lost control of the wheel.
Yeah.
Well, shit, Chase, dude, we have wrapped so much stuff up in this conversation.
We absolutely have.
We literally have went from jobs to passions to weather to people dying and getting crushed by concrete blocks to sleep paralysis. Yeah. Well, thanks for being on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And,
it was fun.
We'll definitely get you on again soon because we sound like we got a couple more hours of conversation.
Yeah, we just getting started.
Scratching the surface.
Absolutely.
Of Pompeii.